Welcome to revision part 1. Identifiers. Identifiers are names that you give to variables that hold data, names of methods and classes. But you can just name whatever you like, but you still have to follow the conventions of Java, and there are some strict rules as well. The strict rules are that you cannot use Java reserved keywords. Okay, these are the Java reserved keywords. This is from the lecture, and you cannot use any of them as variable names. And also you can include alphanumeric characters, that is A to Z and 0 to 9 is okay. And also you're allowed to use underscore and $sign. But the first character cannot be a digit. So you can have a $sign and an underscore as a first character, but not a digit. Okay, and then also you cannot have spaces, because when you have a space, it's considered another variable. And another thing is it is case sensitive. Since Java is case sensitive, num1 will not be same as, lowercase num1 will not be same as uppercase num1. It's two different variable names. And let's look at some examples here. I've got num is not the same as n capital num, and average marks, that's not allowed because there's a space here, and num1 is okay, but you cannot have first num. First num is an illegal variable name. Price in dollars, this $sign included, fine, and dollar in the first as the first letter is fine. Underscore is fine as the first character, and underscore in the middle is all fine. Another thing is that when we have two words in use, for example average marks, we normally capitalize the first letter of the second word. Or another possibility is to put an underscore, but generally more acceptable way is to capitalize the first letter of the second word. And also making it meaningful is most important, but if by making it meaningful you make it so long, it's no point, because it should be short. Like average marks could be shortened to AVJ marks, because generally AVJ is easy to understand, that's average. And these are the identifiers, that's variable names. Now variable names generally is best to use as nouns because they hold data. Okay, they hold something. Let's look at the lecture notes that we have here, lecture slides. We've got a variable is actually something that refers to a memory location to hold a piece of data, but it holds a certain types of data as well. We need to know what type of data, because depending on the type of data, it allocates a certain amount of memory. Okay, if we look at, I've got this from a website. There's the website link at the bottom. For example, a boolean can have true or false, and it only takes a space of 1 bit. A char, 16 bits, whereas an integer can take 32 bits. Now look at also the range of data that you can have. If the number that you're going to use in the program is only small, it's between this range, you can just declare that number as a byte. And if it is an integer between this range, if it's a number between this range, you declare as an integer. And if it has decimal places, you declare as one of us float or double. Double is larger than float. And also it's important that you don't, like if you don't need a large amount of space, you declare it for the size that you think is needed. That's why the data type is important. So when we say declaring a variable, that means we are letting the computer know that we need this much space, and this is the variable name that we are giving it. And we can also give an initial value. Okay, let's look at these. Okay, the initial values. For example, we can declare the variable like by saying the type and the name, or we can just say type, name, and the initial value. This is called initializing it. We do not always have to initialize, because sometimes maybe within the program when we start, as soon as we start, we might ask the user for input. We don't need an initial value, but in some cases where we need it for the calculation or to test it in a condition, loop, or if statement, we need an initial value, we do declare as an initial value there. So that's initializing. And also we sometimes specify public. The word public here, that indicates that this variable can be used by other classes that can see this class. Let's look at what is this one? Fast food cat. So here are some variables I've declared: int and underscore. All right, this is okay variable name, and double, $, price. But notice this is not valid. First num, because it starts with the digit. Now these ones we have specified here as the word private in front of it. That means these variables are only available to the fast food cat class, not any other class. But if I made this one private, public here, if we just type it public, this can be used by other classes that can access this class. Okay. If, for example, in these cases where we don't put public or private, it's by default, it's private. Now notice these, we can make public or private only variables that are in at the start of the class here, but not within the methods. Let's say we have a variable in here, in key control move, there's a variable int mark. This variable is called a local variable. And this local variable is not available to other methods. Even within the same class, these methods cannot access that variable, and not to any other classes either. Okay, these are only for this method. But the variables that we declare up here at the start of the class, which is available to all methods of the class, this can be private or public to make it be seen by other classes. Okay. And let's go back to this. Now we were talking about the variable names just then, and these identifier names, since the topic is on identifiers are not just variable names. They can also be constants. Constants are again a memory storage and contains a data item in there, but it cannot be changed. A variable means something that can be changed, but a constant cannot be changed. So for a constant, we look at this again. Constant is declared here as private static final. Okay, final. Think of the word final as, okay, that's it. We cannot change it. And we normally have the convention of making it all uppercase. Variables we normally all lowercase, except for the first letter of the second word, alternate word that comes along, and these ones we capitalize, all caps. But if we want two words in constants, we tend to have an underscore. Burger calories, if we want to call it burger calories. So there it is. Okay, or uppercase. And this is assigning an initial value, and this stays throughout the program. But if for some reason in the program we want to try to change it, it will give it as a syntax error. Okay, so let's say within this program we try to change this chips to be equal to chips plus 30. Okay, we are trying to do that. This will be a syntax error because this is declared as a constant. And also let's find out the error message that we get for this. Okay, notice it won't tell you it's invalid because it has number 1 at the start of it. It won't give you that. It just says identifier expected because it realizes this. When it starts with a digit, it's not considered an identifier. So it's going to ignore that. And it's saying, where is the identifier? But if I delete the number 1 in front, oh, that's a semicolon missing. Okay, let's put that in. Okay, so it's no longer an error message there. But you find this as the error message. Now, cannot assign a value to final variable chips because final, that's a constant and we are trying to change it. Notice when we say, some people seem to still be confused a little bit about what's on the left and what's on the right. What's on the left is what gets changed. So we read it like this. Chips will become chips plus 30. But we cannot do that because we are trying to change the constant. That's what this is complaining about. All right, so we cannot change it. But notice we can include it in a actual variable. So if we have